Hi, my name's Crystal, and my FFF project is about GMO. However, before I take any of the approach, I wanted to know how many people are actually familiar with this subject. So I decided to go to Safeway and interview some people who are shopping there. So do you know what GMO is?
That's the artificial stuff in foods.
Sure.
Do you know what GMO is?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
What is it?
Genetically modified organisms?
Not about GMO.
I know a little bit about it.
Very little bit, not much.
No.
I'm thinking more about the environment, the insects, the bugs.
Maybe because it's not pure.
There is very much so. If you eat too much of it.
Not really.
Okay, thank you.
How to avoid it?
Yeah.
But not buying it, I guess. I don't, not really.
No. You? Can you tell me?
Yes.
I think we should have it.
Labeling, yeah, but I think
Yeah.
some people would prefer to buy it anyway. So labeling is good.
When I asked whether people knew about the term of GMO, 90% of the people said yes. However, people either didn't know the rest of GMO or gave out very blurry answers. 80% of the people didn't understand how to avoid GMO products, and the rest knew that they should look at the labels. When I asked if the mandatory labeling law is necessary, 100% of them said yes. GMO stands for Genetically Modified Organisms, which is a common method used by scientists and genetic engineers to combine or alter the genetic sequence of DNA of plants and animals. GMO is prevalent in the food market nowadays. Chances are people eat them all the time. GMO ingredients should be labeled for all the food products in the market, as currently GMO is not yet proven to be safe for human beings to consume, and the lack of information on the food labels causes an inconvenience on choosing the non-GM food for the consumers. Thus, the mandatory labeling should be created to allow people to get informed and make choices based on the labels. The causes of the argument about GMO are first, it has not been proven to be 100% safe. Some people will endure vague and fleeting symptoms with no obvious causes, and eventually over years and decades will suffer from serious health issues, such as cancers, intestinal problems, fertility issues, fatigue, autism, memory problems, and other health disturbances as a direct result of consuming GMOs. Sometimes, the scientists and the doctors will treat those symptoms with the drugs which contain GM ingredients, thus continuing the cycle of symptom suppression and disease in exchange for medication side effects. Even though the FDA stated that GE food in the US marketplace today are as safe as their conventional counterparts. However, FDA does not itself test whether genetically engineered food are safe, nor does it require independent pre-market safety testing for GMO. In contrast, the 2-year study found that lab rats fed a long-time diet of either Monsanto's NK603 corn or exposed to different degrees of herbicide in water died earlier and had higher rates of tumors and organ damage than the control groups. The experiment triggered global debates about media's coverage of biotech research and divisions between industry-backed researchers and independent scientists. Since then, FDA's statement about GM safety has no longer been convincible. Secondly, it is shown that GM crops and their associated herbicides can harm birds, insects, amphibians, marine systems, and soil organisms. They reduce biodiversity, pollute water resources, and are unsustainable. Right now, the mandatory labeling law has not yet been passed, and most of the consumers do not have the knowledge of GM ingredients. FDA does not require labeling of GMO. However, according to the stats, 91% of the Americans prefer manufacturers to put labels on products, and only 7% are opposed to the idea. The FDA has received over 1 million petitions to ask for mandatory labelings from citizens. The FDA provides no response. FDA claims that GMO can reduce the world hunger issue, but in fact, there's enough food on Earth. The problem is that the food does not distribute evenly. And also because GMO reduce biodiversity, it is not a sustainable way to reduce world hunger issue. Conventional and GMO corn and soybean products has increased at the same rate. Lastly, just as the opposite of what FDA said to the public, GMO crops have led to more toxic herbicides. As crops become resistant to glyphosate, farmers can only use more toxic crop killers connected to various cancers and other severe diseases. Recently, FDA approved the GM salmon in the food market. Without a mandatory disclosure, there's no way people can tell the difference between non-GM salmon and GM salmon. This is just another way FDA keeps consumers in dark. Salmon is the first approved animal in the American food market, but in fact, 80% of the processed food contain GMOs, most of them from plant crops, including potatoes, tomatoes, canolas, soy, and corn. Ever since GMO have entered in the food market, people have been kept in dark about the harm and risks of GMOs. But in recent years, there are more and more people starting to realize the potential risks of GMO, and they're seeking various ways to advocate for GM labeling in the goals of protecting human rights and educating more people about genetically modified food. My host family mom, Manu Hipkins, is the founder of a nonprofit organization called Well Kiddos, and here she's talking about the reason she supports the food labeling.
Hi, my name is Manu Hipkins and I support the labeling of ingredients in food. I like to know what is in my food and I like to know where it comes from and how that potentially can affect the health of my family. I'm from Germany and when I first came to the United States, I looked at ingredients and some of those things I didn't know what they were. I started food allergies and needed to avoid certain ingredients in food. And so I really advocate that we know what's in our food, where it comes from, and I hope that you look into it and educate yourself about your health and your wellness.
Now, there are at least 26 countries have passed a mandatory labeling law, like Switzerland, Australia, China, India, France, Germany, Greece, Italy, and Russia. And unfortunately, US is not included. But people in US will continue to strive for winning the GMO battle. Even though consumers may have different opinions on the safety of GMO labeling at least provides informed choices for the people who try to avoid the GM ingredients. It's every human's right to know what's inside their food. Right now, it seems that completely eliminating GMO is impossible, but we can use our knowledge to educate the people around us and to make a change in their life. So if one day you ask a person about GMO and he responds,
No. You? Can you tell me?
and then you can tell him that it's genetically modified organism